To stand here today, to know that that's where the disaster started. That's where my connection with my kids was lost. It's where I stopped being a mom.
One year, in the course of a lifetime, can go by pretty fast. Each month for a year, we sat down with drug court participants to hear the highs and lows of what it takes to go through drug court. In 1 year, we discovered joy.
So congratulations on your graduation today.
Hard work.
I've been busting my butt for the last 7 months. I know that I'm screw up, but this is the best I've done in 10 years.
Setbacks and successes as we witness people changing their lives in 3 Ohio drug courts.
Everything changes when you get clean.
That's me, Anne, and I'm a video producer. For 1 year, my fellow producers and I set out to follow these 3 county drug court programs. Medina County was our first stop. Medina is located south of Cleveland and west of Akron.
People move out here for a particular way of life. I'm Judge Joyce V. Kimbler, judge of the Medina County Court of Common Pleas General Division in Medina County, Ohio. I think the fact that Medina looks idyllic kind of camouflages the fact that you're going to have the same problems in a community like Medina as you're going to have in any other community.
Medina was one of 3 counties we visited where we met with participants in all different stages of drug court and sobriety. Some participants had been sober for over a year, while others just a few days.
I was born addicted to crack cocaine. I'm from Morrow County, Ohio. I got out of prison in CBCF and came to Medina County to live with my grandmother to kind of change where I was at, my people, places, and things, to kind of find myself.
I was with some people doing some things that I thought I'd never do. You know, we were stealing from stores, stealing from anywhere and everywhere, lying, cheating, stealing, like, you know, everything, the whole lifestyle that came along with the drugs is what I did. I'd never been arrested ever in my life. I'd never seen handcuffs until I was 28 years old. You know, I couldn't seem to stay out of them. I'm 33, that's 5 years. It's taken me 5 years to get to the point where I'm at today. I knew that I needed to do this because I was afraid to live and I was afraid to die. So I was stuck in this place. It's a very, very dark place.
Tell me what's gone well in your life since I saw you last.
You know, part of recovery for me is learning how to balance life. You know, I've been able to meet some of my responsibilities as an adult. Now that I've been working, I'm able to pay my bills. Not only pay them, but pay them on time.
My name is Stephanie, and I do peer support for Medina County Drug Court. I have been clean for 8.5 years, and one day I spoke up at the square in Medina, and the people from drug court were there, and they were like, "You gotta come talk to drug court." And I was like, okay, I didn't really know a drug court even existed. I didn't really know what that was. But I started to learn that this was a place for addicts to be able to, you know, get help within the system and to treat them in a way that acknowledged their disease, that acknowledged the issues that they face, and help them to get into recovery, not just get out of the system.
Our next stop was Marion County, which is a rural community with 60,000 residents located near the center of the state.
People can't make it through this without help. It's bigger than all of us.
When I started seeing heroin, I thought,
oh my gosh, these people are not going to make it. And I started trying to get people into counseling and things like that. And so that's when things started growing. Probation department started growing because we had so many more numbers coming in. So it kind of evolved like that.
What's your drug of choice?
Heroin.
Is it? How does alcohol come in play in all this?
What do you mean?
Okay, so the concern is that we don't want you to turn to a different substance.
I know it's everywhere, but Marion is just overran with drugs. I started with opiates, pills, but for like the past 6 years. I'm a chronic relapser. I've been in and out of jail and rehabs and detoxes for the past 3 years.
What's your drug of choice?
Heroin.
So, but you have used alcohol in the past.
Yeah, I would say heroin was my last, but everything would be it.
We're calling you a multi-user.
I have 2 boys, they're 11 and 14, and I'm 34, and I live at home with my mom and dad. My dad is sick. I help my mom take care of him.
Next, we headed to Hocking County, which is located at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
So what's the change? Because I know originally you didn't really think you had a problem. You think you have a problem now?
Yeah, definitely.
What's changed? What's made you feel that way?
I mean, you just get to thinking about all the stuff you didn't have before. There's lots changed for me now than, what it was 8 months ago.
Is it better now?
Yeah, definitely.
Life's getting better?
Yeah, get to see my son now, got a house, job.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Hocking County is a small rural community, about 20,000 residents. Number one business here is tourism. So the Hocking Hill State Parks, Old Man's Cave, Rock House, that's how we really survive here. I mean, there's not a lot of industry left. It's a really nice community, to be honest with you. I mean, there's a lot of good parts about it, but just like most rural communities in Ohio, they've been ravaged by the opiates.
What is going on?
I don't know, I lost my cool for a minute, I guess. I just got overwhelmed with everything.
Here's the question for you is, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay in the program?
I think I need to.
If you can keep them in the program for the first 6 months, typically we're successful because that's the point where you see the changes. That's where they're getting clean. As their brain clears up and they start thinking better, then you get the heavier doses of treatment and get them doing the right things and trying to modify their behaviors and get them to understand what their triggers are.
Prior to going into this year, I had very little interaction with the recovery community, and I wasn't sure if anyone would be willing to participate in this documentary or if they would make it through. That first month, 19 people in our 3 counties gave of their time and had the courage to share their stories in order to help people.
I only know of 2 ways to tie my shoes, and if you tried to tell me to tie it the other way, I'd probably mess it up quite a few times before maybe I figured out how to just regularly do it the other way without thinking. It's something I do automatically. And for some of these people, their behaviors are automatic, and it takes time to make those changes. So I think it's difficult. They've been so used to living their life one way, seeking a drug, depending on it, and now we're asking them to do everything differently.
All rise. She did report that she relapsed on quote-unquote everything. She missed with Tim on the 24th. It was also reported that the last time she was here, she did lie about the job.
I can't breathe right now, and I'm upset, and I'm trying to keep it together. So, but I'd rather face my consequences than run off like I used to, because it's gonna catch up sooner or later and can't move forward if I'm running away, so.
Well, we're going to take you into custody.
For drug use, dishonesty, and missing appointments, Monta was given a 3-day jail sanction.
When I went back out there, it was like it felt way different. just to have people that actually care and people that I can actually talk to, instead of people where we just use each other and you have to watch your back on every little thing that you're doing.
Relapses are to be expected. When you get around particular people, particular circumstances, then there's a tendency to relapse, especially while you're just in the beginning of treatment, where you're learning skills and you're learning tools on how to handle different people and circumstances when you encounter them.
I don't know if it's just like where I'm at in my recovery or like the combination of everything, but it seems like once I hit like the 120 days, stuff started getting rough. Like I'm really emotional and I've just been struggling with that, like not really struggling with like relapse or thinking about relapsing, just with being emotional, like dealing with everything. They say you hit the pause like 30 days, 60 days, and 120 days, so I kind of tried to get myself ready for it, but it's been rough. This drug court is getting to me. It's just a lot. It's a lot to do.
Drug courts work because participants are held to a very high standard and the level of accountability is there. They appear before a judge once a week in the early phases. They go to treatment multiple times a week. They are drug screened multiple times a week.
It is not easy at all. And a lot of times you will hear clients, and on the tough days, they will say to me, I would rather be in jail any day of the week. And that's how I know that we're doing our jobs well, because again, that to them, that is kind of an easy way back into the cycle of what they're doing. This is making them do life differently, and it gets really uncomfortable sometimes. But if it doesn't get uncomfortable, then there's going to be no behavior change.
At this point, we had a chance to get to know the drug court team and really witness the work that they had put into this program. The drug court team consists of judges, probation officers, counselors, prosecutors, defense attorneys, law enforcement, court staff, and peer support. Each week, the team is busy with assessments in jail, individual meetings with participants, drug testing, home visits, group meetings, and court sessions. Participants are helped with housing, education, employment, reunification with children, transportation, and doctor's appointments. One thing you have to understand is that this is 100% voluntary both for participants and court staff.
I started at a young age. I started with alcohol first and marijuana. We lived in a huge neighborhood and we were always out running around, riding our bikes. It was normal for everybody to skip school. We had this field behind our house where they were building a new development, and there was like a bridge that we all went and hid under that nobody knew about, nobody checked. And we would steal alcohol from our parents and we would take it back there and we would drink. I got pregnant at 17 years old. I quit school, but I quit everything else too. I didn't really experiment with anything. It wasn't long, I was like 22 and I had my second daughter. At that point, I still wasn't doing anything. I wasn't working or anything. I was staying at home with the girls, just doing the mom thing. At 23 years old, my fiance at the time was having an affair with my best friend. That kind of slapped me in the face. It sent me on a spiral. Growing up in the household with my parents, there was a lot of drug use. And when I would see my parents fight, it was just normal for them to turn to drugs and alcohol and to be high and drunk. So that was how I was raised, that we coped with life. I got pregnant with my third child. I started working in the clubs, and that atmosphere, that's just men, drugs, and alcohol. That's all that is, and that's what my lifestyle became. I lived that life until 26, 27 years old. I cleaned up for a while, just was like, whoa, this is too much. I met somebody else, and we settled down. I fell in love, and it was enough where my life was content, I thought. It was a little distraught, but hey, I have my kids, we're happy. We lived with his mom, but we were still happy. Like it was weird, but I was happy. I went in for surgery on my teeth and got put back on the pain pills. And I was like, oh, I forgot how great these were. So I started back into the pain pills. I started back into the drinking. And then I will never forget, it was Easter Sunday. I was doing pills really heavy, and I had to make Easter dinner, and I couldn't function because I was sick. My dealer was out, so she was like, I have something else that you'll like, and it'll do the thing, and it's cheaper. You get more for your money. And that's when I met heroin. And from there, it was just heroin every day. Every single day, all day. I lived for it, I slaved for it. I did everything it wanted me to. And it was my best friend. It was the love of my life. I put it before everything.
Hearing Chastity's story gave me an insight of some of the struggles participants were facing.
How we doing, Lori?
Okay.
What's going on?
Well, I lost my sister last Friday to an overdose.
Well, there's no good words I can say to you. There's nothing I can say. There's nothing I can do to change it. But this is going to sound, I don't want to sound bad, but you've taken the steps to change your life. So what you can't let this do is bring you down.
Right.
And you have to stay focused on yourself. You
Right.
can grieve, you can cry, you can do all those things, but don't backslide on us at this point. Okay? You need to, the loss of a family member is something that I don't have any great words. It's never going to heal. There's always going to be a little wound there, but you got a lot of people around here who can support you. You got counseling, you got mental health agencies, you got the whole 9 yards. So take advantage of them.
It's truly defining moments in your life is when life sucks and you continue to do the next right thing. When life has been terrible to me, where I would say it's not been fair, it's not been just, right? Those are the moments that have defined me, and I've just held on. I've just not done drugs or alcohol. There's nothing else I could do in those moments except for not use.
I think one misconception when we talk about people in drug court is that they think once they get clean, life's easy. And I think the other thing they have to be told through the program, and I'm pretty good at, is that life isn't easy. I don't care whether you're clean, sober, rich, poor, whatever it is. No matter how you view that life outside of your addiction, nothing's easy.
I don't think that recovering addicts have a better life, but I do believe we get a different view. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I love continuing to kind of climb that mountain to see those different perspectives.
What I'm hearing is that you're accomplishing your goals and you're feeling the joy of success.
I'm proud of myself. Who would have thought that I ever would have been able to do this? Monday before work, I bought my daughter her clarinet for band this year. I've always provided for my kids, but when it comes to large things like that, I'm real good at running to daddy. I haven't ran to my dad in 2 months. I've been fully self-supporting for 2 months.
I'm so used to letting myself down and disappointing myself. At first, it was like, so when's the next time that I'm going to disappoint myself, you know? It was huge for me to be able to tell them that I'm going to do something and follow through. And sometimes I just couldn't do it. And now I'm seeing myself do it more and more. And our relationship's getting stronger and stronger because they're starting to feel that they can trust me again and they can rely on me.
Let's hear Monta's report.
Monta's really stepped it up since her last sanction. It's been a while.
I've seen a turnaround, Monta. That's good. That's really great. Do you feel different, or does something change?
Definitely, yes. And past few days, I've been doing community service at the other court thing. But yeah, my relationships seem better, and I just feel happier and
Great. I'm proud of you.
make it count.
Good job. Who's next?
Timmy Dickinson, you're up.
Timmy. Good morning, Timmy.
How was your last month?
A lot's happened since you guys visited me last time. I left state and went to West Virginia and missed drug court, got a warrant, got back on house arrest. But things are going okay. I came back and checked in and told them I was dirty. I relapsed on crack. I was dirty for weed and alcohol.
You're back on track. That's what we're looking for. And I want to tell you that I appreciate your honesty, because you have been honest. Even though you did take off a few weeks ago, you came back, you self-reported, and that's good. That's better than what happened before you months ago. So that's good. I look at that as progress.
If a person comes to probation and is honest with the staff about the relapse, we can work with them. If a person continues to hide that from their treatment staff, from their probation officer, we see more often than not that the problem gets worse.
At first, all these people feel like enemies because I've been doing the wrong thing and being bad for so long. I'm used to running from these people and hiding, and now we have open communication. Like, if I have a problem and I feel like something's gonna happen, I tell them and they help me. They send me to whoever I need to talk to about it, or take time out of their own day, even the judge, to just sit and have a conversation and try to figure out what they can do to help. Whatever they can do, they will. Addiction either ends in recovery or death, and recovery is harder than dying. You have to fight harder than you ever fought to get high, and I think by the time people get to the point where they're ready to get into recovery, we're so weak and beat down from being in addiction for so long that it's hard to find the strength to do it.
It seems like a dream almost. My mom is an addict and an alcoholic, and I grew up taking care of her and my brothers, and my whole life goal was to grow up and be a mom and have kids and do everything different, and just got wrapped up in it. And before I realized how bad it really was, it was too late, and I had already gotten myself too deep. I was doing pills with my mom. Like, she was getting them off my grandma, and I was eating them, and they were making me sick. So my mom one day was like, oh, you should try to do it this way. And she crushed it up, and we snorted it. And I always liked to be high. I do remember that from the very beginning. I liked the way that it made me feel. But I didn't need to get high at all. So then I moved away, and I came back, and I met my daughter's dad. He was already strung out on 30s, and I didn't know that he was like dependent on them. I didn't even know you could get dependent on pills like that. I just knew that we did pills, and it was cool. It felt good. We had all this energy and got all this stuff done and had a good time. And then I woke up one morning and was throwing up, and my legs hurt, and I felt like shit, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And he's like, you need a pill. I'm like, what do you mean? Like some Pepto? You know, like, what are you talking about? No, you're pill sick. You need a pill. And that's when I learned that you get sick if you don't have these pills. And
when you realized that, did you like immediately try to stop, or were you like, oh no?
No,
like, it just,
because we had pills already, so of course I'm gonna do this pill in front of me to make me feel better. And we just never stopped. It just got worse. One of our friends was like, I have dope. And
were you scared?
I was terrified. I cried. Like, I don't want to do it, but I was so sick. So finally we decided we were gonna do it. And everybody that we knew they were already shooting heroin. And I was like, never will I ever. But you know, you can smoke it, you can shoot it, you can snort it. They had it broke down in water and had it in a little cap, and they were like, just snort the water. I sat with this little cap in my hand for probably an hour and a half because I was so afraid to do it. And
was he afraid to do it?
no. And I was sad. I knew it because I justified my pill use by the fact that everybody else that I knew was already using heroin and I wasn't. So I was at a better point in my life. And I knew once I went there, I wouldn't go back. I did it. And within weeks, I was shooting heroin.
And that was something you didn't think
I would ever do. Never. I mean, I already watched everybody around me go there, and I wasn't there yet, so I thought, I'm gonna get off these pills, and I'm not ever gonna need to do dope. And then I did dope, and I'm like, it's okay, I'm never gonna shoot it, I'll just snort it. And then I tried it, and I never wanted to do anything else any other way ever again. And I didn't.
In November, I asked participants if they've ever been in treatment before. So before drug court, have you ever been in recovery?
I've done like a 7-day detox, I've done Suboxone program, I've done the methadone clinic.
Tried to slow down a couple times on my own and never worked.
I tried going to private psychologists and doctors. We paid out of pocket for it. There was wait lists everywhere we went to try to get treatment, whether it be inpatient or outpatient. In fact, some of the places I called 2 years ago are just now calling me back.
You always try to substitute other things, like, oh, this isn't my drug of choice, so I'll be okay on this. A lot of people will use alcohol. I know I did. When I came off of heroin, I started drinking every day. And it didn't concern me because it wasn't my drug of choice. So I thought, I'm doing good. And I would give myself pats on the back, and that's so not true.
When I first started looking for help, we didn't have drug court. We didn't have the program at MAC. We only had foundations in town, and the wait was like crazy, and it was hard to find help.
One thing we kept hearing in every county was that you needed to change your people, places, and things.
The thing for me and most addicts, what happens is all of us, I mean, we're attracted to our own kind, right? I mean, I always compare it like squirrels hang out with squirrels and chipmunks hang out with chipmunks. You don't really see them like, you know, in the yard playing together. And I think in the real world, we're the same way. And so when I was in active addiction, I was attracted people who are in active addiction because it made my behavior okay.
What's going on, Mark? Anything exciting?
No, getting ready for snow season, snow removal.
Snow removal? That's gotta be rough.
Yeah.
My friend was helping me move, and he came over, and he smokes weed, you know, all the time. So he came over, helped me move, and he had some with him, and it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Didn't really think about it too much, and so we smoked and then drank a little bit.
The reality is it's a small community. They're going to be exposed to it. Their friends are going to be around. And that is a really hard thing to overcome, is to change your whole life and say, okay, I've got to quit. This friend's still using, I can't be with them anymore. And hopefully you give them the strength and the courage and a new environment, a new goal in life, a new lease on life, I guess is a way to say it, and give them a chance to move forward.
You definitely have to change everything. People, places, and things. I know it's cliche and it's corny, but it's the truth. It's hard when it's your mom, you know? It's like, I want to hang out with my mom and be close and have a relationship with her, but the only way we've ever had a relationship together is either drinking or using drugs together.
let's talk about that one little issue first. Holidays are not fun. They put all of us in very bad situations. We try to make them joyous occasions. Family get around, they start fighting and yelling and screaming, or somebody drinks that puts you in bad spots. You guys are more vulnerable than most people. You guys have to understand that. You guys are the ones who have the problem to deal with, and your family might not totally understand it. I know all the counselors are going out of their way to talk about those issues with people, so be aware to reach out for help before it gets bad.
I think that underlying a lot of the addiction is a lot of unresolved emotional issues, and those become heightened at the holiday season because everybody wants holidays to be perfect, and we all have an idea of the perfect holiday from the Hallmark Channel. And when your life doesn't match the Hallmark Channel, but you think everybody else's does, that can set you up for failure.
My childhood was a decent childhood. I never really went without. I kind of had everything I needed, not necessarily wanted, but that I needed in life. You know, there was always food, a shelter. You know, there was no real abuse in the family. But there was a point in time where I started to get a little bit older, you know, maybe 8, 10, that area where I didn't feel good enough. You know, I kind of felt like I was an outcast, and that kind of carried on with me. You know, I had addictive behaviors before I even picked up a drink or a drug. You know, it was obsession, compulsion. I always wanted more, was never good enough. I always wanted more of anything, no matter what it was, whether it was food, toys, friends, anything. And that kind of just ran with me my whole life. Now being able to look back and think about some of this stuff, you know, what was my childhood like? You know, was I in a bad place? And really I wasn't. You know, I was pretty much cared for, loved, and accepted, but I had felt different. You know, I felt like I was somebody different. 2 weeks ago I got laid off unexpectedly. And it was tough for me. That day I got laid off, you know, it was payday, and I instantly thought I failed. Here I go again, trying as hard, giving everything my all, and I still can't make it. I'm still not good enough. You know, my first thought was to go use. Honest, you know, it was. I had my paycheck, and I was gonna go to the bank, cash my paycheck, and go right to the dope man. And my next thought was, I gotta call somebody. And I called my sponsor, and I told him everything I wanted to do. You know, like, I'm not perfect. And being an alcoholic is hard. You know, I don't know how to live life without it. I still don't. I mean, I'm learning, I'm trying, but you know, I've had some thoughts lately. I've almost 18 months sober, and I still think about it.
Mr. Henry, what I want to thank you for is your authenticity. It is not easy to admit that you have human weaknesses and human failings. You know, it's easier to pretend like nothing is wrong, and that's what gets you into trouble. So I really want to thank you for being authentic and showing that when you do, you know, you can get through it. Hi, how are you today?
I'm okay.
Tell me what okay means to you.
I'm accepting some things.
What are you accepting?
I had a dilute urine.
A dilute test is an unacceptable sample of a urine drug screen.
In other words, it doesn't mean positive for drugs. It could mean other substances were added.
Why do you believe that you had a dilute test?
It was the week that I started my new job, and I was in training, and I was working really hard hours, a lot of hours. I was closing the store at 12 o'clock at night and opening the restaurant at 6 a.m., and I wasn't sleeping properly. I wasn't maintaining and taking care of myself. I was drinking way too much coffee and energy drinks. I wasn't eating properly. I was running myself ragged that week.
Well, Ms. McGraw, I don't know. I mean, the fact of the matter is that we have a dilute test. So at this time, you are remanded into the custody of the Medina County Sheriff's Department.
When the judge apprehended me today, it hurt. I was kind of in shock because I wasn't expecting it, because I have taken so many steps to try to just build people up around me so that I didn't fall down during this time, because I don't normally have using thoughts, and I usually don't have things that bring me down. I'm good at getting through my problems. I'm good at utilizing my support. I have tools in my toolbox. I'm good at getting them out and applying them.
Ms. McGraw, we've had an opportunity to review this matter. When you indicate that you're going to pay for independent drug testing, in this particular matter, I'm going to let you go for today. If you do not have them back by January 4th, I will send you back down to Judge Hall. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. She is released from custody at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
My mom almost had to take them back and give them to their dad and say that their mom's in jail again. That day will never come again.
Some participants struggled in December, but January marked a new year and new opportunities.
I'm still here.
Sounds like you're doing good too.
I am. I went and got my hair test done.
So that was great.
That was great. I got,
Anything about it?
well, because I've already been to drug court one other time, so, but I even paid for the extended opiate panel so that it went further in depth, and it was all negative. I got the alcohol hair follicle test, and it was all negative.
How are you today, Ms. McGraw?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine. You're looking like you're feeling a little better.
I am.
Are you? Tell me how you're achieving your balance.
I'm doing my goal that you told me every day. I'm taking 30 minutes out for myself. The day before New Year's Eve, I was standing at the grill at work cooking, and I was looking around, and I was like, you know, my New Year's resolution was to stay sober. I did it. Every single day last year, I was sober. That's huge. I've never met one of my New Year's resolutions. They last maybe a week. And I just broke into tears. It was just a moment. I got butterflies in my belly, and I called my daughter, and I told her, I was like, do you know I stayed sober every day this year? She's like, duh, Mom. Like, she wasn't as surprised about it as, maybe she was, but she was like, is that why you called me? But it was nice.
January marked 6 months of production. This is month 6. Can you reflect on the person we met 6 months ago and how much you've changed since then?
Oh man. I don't know. It's been a long 6 months. I think I've grown up a lot in the last 6 months. I stopped trying to point the finger at everybody else, and I tried to take responsibility and what's the word that I'm looking for? Accountability. Accountability is a big thing for me, because it's easier to feel better about what you're doing when you're blaming it on somebody else. But I had to just suck it up and really tell myself, like, this is where I'm at, and it's because of the choices that I've made.
6 months ago, I was probably still kind of in a rocky place. I think I've had a couple sanctions there for drinking.
It's something that you deal with every day. Not like bad, it's just it just doesn't go away. Like, if you think it does, that's usually when it rears back up. And that's what was happening like 6 months ago for me. I was like on the verge of relapse, and then I relapsed.
I'm more grateful, understanding. I'm not mean and hateful and poor me. And
6 months ago, I thought I had all the answers, and I thought that maybe, it was time for me to just deal with my own problems. But being able now to look back just 6 months ago is like, wow, I've learned so much. I've came so far overcome so many difficulties and problems and situations that, you know, I feel a lot more comfortable with myself.
In those first 6 months, I saw people graduate, go on the run, relapse, get jobs, lose jobs, gain trust, and start to find their way.
You have just turned your life around, and I just encourage you to keep these supports and all this stuff in place when we're out of your life too, so that you can continue to grow.
You know, when I first started, I'm like, oh, I can do this. It's no big deal. I'll be done before I even know it. It's a long-term thing, and I'm not good with long-term. So you have to be ready and willing to change your whole life.
It's like accepting the way things are and accepting help. And when you accept it, it's a lot easier.
I look at it like this. I did everything I had to do to get my drugs. I went above and beyond to go get high. I don't care if I had to walk 10 miles in the freezing rain. If I wanted that dope, I was going to get it. I just take all of that energy and I put it into making it to my appointments.
I'm trying to make you uncomfortable. Just so you understand where I'm at, I'm trying to make you uncomfortable. Because if I can make you uncomfortable and make you do things you don't want to do, it'll take you outside your comfort zone. And by doing that, you'll start realizing you do things you don't think you can do. Like stay clean, like say no to people, like not give in to peer pressure. I hope everybody leaves this program realizes that they've accomplished something other people haven't, and they can be a leader in the community and help other people. Some people can do it, some people can't. But the truth is you're being given an opportunity to do that. So the question is whether you want to do it or you don't. That's the hard part for me, because I think you can do it, but you kind of let other people influence you.
We want to help you, and we want to get you linked with resources that can help you. And even if you don't want to ask for help, that sometimes in order to make things better, you need to do that.
When people start to get into sobriety and into recovery, they want a life just like everybody else's. Balance is one of the things that we are constantly going over with our drug court participants, because yes, we want you to have a job. Yes, we want you to have a normal life, but you've got to put your recovery first. Well, I know that one of the issues you've always dealt with is balance. How is that going for you?
I gave up one of my jobs. I had a really hard time with that. I had to sit down and make a decision and choose between my 2 jobs that I was working. And I feel like I made a confident decision about that. It might not have been what I wanted, but it's what was best for me.
I don't make any decisions for them. The decisions are all in themselves. They just don't know it yet. It's helping them be able to process, talk through, and be able to look at pros and cons. It's just helping them find their own way, helping them, honestly, it's almost cliche, but to live the lives they never imagined they could.
19.1% of Marion County residents are considered to be in poverty. I'm Heidi Jones. I'm the Executive Director of Marion Matters.
Marion Matters is a nonprofit organization that helps break the cycle of poverty through goal setting and education.
I do some presentations every now and then with Mark Court. They're wanting to let the folks sort of in Mark Court know what support systems are here for them. First thing they have to do is understand sort of where they are in the big picture. They do a self-assessment and find out where they are. And when they see some of those strengths, sometimes they're surprised, like I didn't realize that I was strong in this area. But you know, oftentimes we see tears because a lot of them say, I didn't realize how bad it was. But the cool part of getting that information on paper, and I think this is the part that I love the most, even through the tears that are shed, there's hope in this.
They've helped me learn that I can be more than what I thought I could be. Being with Marion Matters, you feel like you're a part of something too, with the community.
There is a drug problem here. You know, I'm not gonna skirt the fact or try to cover that up, but there are a lot of great people looking to address those issues as well. I mean, you know, starting with the judge and the Mark Court and people realizing that it's not just one of those things where you can send them to jail. There are underlying issues to the drug problem. It's here, our community knows it, and we're working hard to address it. Do we have all the answers? Absolutely not.
Heidi taught us how important bringing the community together was in solving the drug problem. This past year, the Medina County Drug Court team and the community came together to open Robbie's Recovery Center.
As we got here today, the 50 or 60 people we were expecting were kind of milling around, and then y'all just kept coming and filling the building. Wow. And the only thing that ran through my head was, if you build it, they will come.
The community is no longer focusing on the problem, it's focusing on the solution. Everybody has someone they know or love who is in recovery, but nobody wants to talk about it. This is an opportunity for us all to come together, acknowledge the problem, get behind the solution, and support one another.
In Hocking County, we witnessed Judge Moses out in the community, educating law enforcement and community leaders on drug court and addiction.
My name's Fred Moses. I'm the Hocking County Municipal Court Judge. It's an honor and privilege to be here. I think the people who really understand this probably better than I do is law enforcement and the EMTs and the firefighters. They see it every single day, and it's getting to be a crisis. Studies show if you can spend 3 minutes with each individual, their success rates go up by 87%. I think it's really important that people understand what's going on and really understand that people aren't bad people and there's nothing wrong with them just because they're addicted. It's just the way it goes. You need to help them get back on.
With community support behind her, we saw Monta graduate in March.
Mark Court gave me consequences, but it protected me from doing anything stupid that could have hurt myself or others. But they also helped me develop a plan and skills to prevent and deal with it. Mark Court also rewarded me when I did well, too. They made me more aware of when I was doing well and when I started slipping up. I found my true self, and I am free, and I am grateful to have been in Mark Court and Marion and all the opportunities provided.
How has this process prepared you for the future?
I have learned a lot of things, and just things to be able to handle my normal life, and just knowing who I am and handling those problems that I used to run from has lifted a weight off my chest.
Every single engagement with a participant is an opportunity for change.
It's really easy to judge somebody and say you don't deserve this second chance, but when it's you, you want the second chance.
What do second chances mean to you?
Everything. I mean, I can't say enough. The way I look at it is that I finally got my life back.
I really feel like if people give up on people fully and don't, if they stay closed-minded to second chances, you know, I know that we can be bad as addicts, but we're not terrible people when we're clean. It doesn't discriminate, so I think second chances are important.
I feel that I'm able to give back today and not just always be one that is take, and take.
I believe I have a second chance. I believe this is my second chance. I should have died out there.
Everybody deserves a second chance, and because without it, then you'd just give up.
When I first started this, I felt like I would never be able to prove myself to anybody, and it would take forever for people to even look at me other than just a junkie. So having a second chance at being able to show people who I am made the difference between whether I stayed sober or not. And like for Mark Court was my second chance at life.
Second chances led to 5 out of the 7 participants we were talking to in Hocking County to graduate in April.
It's always a joyous day. We get to see people move on from the program. It serves a lot of purposes. We get a chance to bring in the families of the people who've been through the problems and see their children and family members succeed.
It's a big accomplishment. It is a big deal. There are people who never thought that they would be in that position. They never thought they would accomplish something like this.
People are moving on today. Now you got to give back. This is the first day of the rest of your lives. You have the ability to accomplish the goals you want to accomplish, the ability to do what you want to do. It's all up to you.
I don't think that I can say thank you enough to each of you for what you have helped me to achieve. I hope you can continue to change people's lives in the way that you have changed mine. To everyone just starting out in the program, stick with it. There isn't a better program or group of people to help you through this.
I still respect you as a judge, but I don't look at you like that anymore. I look at you as someone who recognized the problem and realized we needed to do something different besides throw us all in jail.
There's a time to punish, there's a time to lock them up, there are charges they need to be locked up for. But we need to show that kindness and compassion to get them back. If not, you're giving up on people. Our country's built on second chances.
I've really been on track the last year, so I feel like I'm headed towards the right direction.
How do you move past all of this?
Forgiveness.
April was full of accomplishments for some, but unfortunately, we had to remind ourselves that graduating was not a guarantee. Along the way, participants came in and out of the drug court program and our documentary. Corey was a participant we met back in August. What is something you'd like us to know about you?
When things are good, they're good, and when things are bad, they're really bad. Like I'm a chronic relapser, but I've never given up on myself.
Your Honor, Corey is reported as scheduled and instructed. He's testing as scheduled and instructed.
You're doing well, and so keep up the good work, keep moving forward.
Since last time we met, I've been struggling with marijuana.
Pretty soon, community service hours aren't going to do it anymore.
Showing up in December, Corey had gone on the run, and it wasn't until March until we saw him again.
I'd just like to apologize to everybody in the docket and the whole team for my actions. I took something small and ran with it and made it bigger than it needed to be. I decided that I didn't want to do drug court anymore back in November, so I actually decided I wasn't going to do probation either, and that got me into some trouble. But I did end up turning myself in February. I did almost a month in jail, and they let me back into the docket.
When a person takes off and then we eventually gather them back again, I have to decide if the person is truly wanting to participate in the drug court.
I want to complete this for me because I've been a quitter all my life, and I want to complete this to let myself know that I can do this.
I've came a long way in the last month again. I had some difficulties in some situations and some things like that, but I'm getting comfortable at my new job again. My routine is kind of back in order, and just loving life. You take the drugs and alcohol away, and you leave me with me, I'm still me. It's making changes to better not only my life, but the lives that have been affected around me.
It's amazing, where they've come from. They've made some bad decisions, but with a little help and encouragement, where they're able to go to, I think is really a cool thing. And when they get back to the community, that's really rewarding.
One way we saw participants giving back to the community was through a trash pickup.
I remember when I was in active addiction, the cops getting behind me or me getting scared and throwing my needles out the window. I have so much guilt for that today because when I did the trash pickup, I found so many needles on the side of the road. I'm gonna continue to pick those up because I don't want my children to, and I don't want anybody else's children to either. And I'm sorry for being that person. Because that's wrong. It is.
Chastity organized the trash pickup in order to clean up the night before the Drug Court Awareness Day. Drug Court Awareness Day allowed the community to come together and learn about the program and celebrate recovery.
So today we're here to celebrate drug court. But within the confines of drug court, we wouldn't be celebrating the success of drug court if we didn't celebrate the success of those in recovery today.
Amazing the resources that the community has put me through that now I can pass to other addicts, because in order to keep what I have to give it away. And that's what my goal is today, is to stay sober by helping the next addict. Thank you.
From the excitement of the drug court awareness event, we headed to Marion, where I had learned that Timmy had gotten arrested on a new charge and would not be able to complete drug court.
People exit for many reasons. The one we shoot for is successful graduation, successful termination from the docket. However, unfortunately, not all individuals make it through the docket.
You can't fix everybody, and that is a very hard part of this job, and that is a stress on the job for every judge who does this.
I think that you do drug court because as a judge, you want to make a positive contribution to your community. And drug court helps you with the people in your community so that they're not relapsing, so that you're avoiding the recidivism, so that you're building up positive citizens who are going to contribute and give back to the community.
June was a month of ups and downs. In Marion, Corey had gone on the run again. But in Medina, Nick was preparing to graduate.
Well, and I know that you're going to graduate next time that we see you, so it seems silly to ask you your goal, but I'm going to ask anyway. What will be your goal for next time?
Continue to set up this plan, my recovery, my plan for afterwards.
The drive to Medina in July was bittersweet. Our time had come to an end, and we had grown close to the staff and participants. When arriving in Medina, we learned that Chastity transferred probation back to Morrow County in order to be closer to her children.
I felt like it was important that I kept structure and stability in their life.
Back in Medina, we saw Nick graduate.
Never imagined being where I'm at, mentally, physically, spiritually. You know, I'm just a totally different person than I was even just a year ago.
The great thing about every day is a new fresh start. So you just believe that people on their road in this life, on their journey in this life, you're going to fall down, you're going to make mistakes, and that's what we're here for, is to pick each other up and help each other out. And if I have a skill that you don't have, I'll help you learn it, and if you have one that I could benefit from, you'll teach me. The criminal justice system is about mercy and justice. And when you're trying to balance those two things out, well, that's maybe what drug court's all about, is finding the balance between mercy and justice.
My hope for them is we put them in a better place than what they were when they came in the program. My hope for them is they now have the tools to go out and survive on their own, and deal with their addiction and their demons for the rest of their lives.
It's amazing because it's saving a lot of lives. I know nationwide it's saving a lot of lives. It's giving people new chances, new lives, opportunities they never thought they could have or even felt they deserved.
If we can focus on recovery, addicts can be amazing contributors to the community.
If I could show the world who we are as everything that we are other than addicts, and that be the only thing that I ever do, I would be happy.
I'm a brother.
I am outgoing.
I am honest. I am someone's son.
I'm a mother.
I am smart.
I'm a father.
Hardworking.
I'm a sister. I'm an addict that's grateful to be in recovery.
While our journey with drug court is over, every day across the country,
Well, welcome, Lori. We're glad you're here.
drug court teams are asking participants,
Are you ready for a change?
I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this change.
From Ohio University Southern in Ironton, I'd like to welcome you to our special panel discussion in response to the documentary Second Chances, A Year in Ohio's Drug Courts. My name is Sarah Diamond Burraway. I'm Director of External Relations, Communications, and Workforce Success here at Ohio Southern. And I'd like to let you know that our panel discussion is made possible by a grant from the USDA Rural Development for workforce training in drug-impacted communities. Our broadcast is made possible by the electronic media program here at Ohio University Southern, so we'd like to thank our faculty, staff, and especially our electronic media students for their work on this broadcast. Most of you know that Ohio has drug courts in many counties, including here in Lawrence County, that are specifically designed for people with substance use disorders. Drug courts offer those individuals the opportunity to enter into long-term drug treatment and to agree to court supervision rather than receiving jail sentences. However, what many people don't know is that drug courts are very personal, they're very intensive, and life-changing for the participants as well as those who work in the drug court environment. The documentary that we viewed earlier was produced in partnership with WOUB Public Media by Ohio Government Telecommunications, and it chronicled 1 year with several individuals in 3 rural Ohio towns, very similar to our cities and villages here in Lawrence County. We're honored to have with us an esteemed panel to provide insight on the intersection of courts and substance use disorder. And I will start with introductions of our panelists, and then we'll come back with questions. Immediately to my left is Judge Donald R. Capper. He presides in Chesapeake over the Lawrence County Municipal Court. And while not functioning as a certified drug court, Judge Capper referred more than 300 people for substance abuse treatment in the past year, and we'll hear more about that in a moment. Next on our panel is Judge Kevin J. Waldo of the Ironton Municipal Court. It's Lawrence County's newest certified drug court, a designation that's been in place for just the past few months, and we're just getting started. Next is Judge Andrew P. Ballard, Lawrence County Court of Common Pleas. Judge Ballard presides over the Nexus Drug Court, which recently celebrated its first graduates. And finally, participant advocate Jared McKnight. Mr. McKnight is one of the first graduates of the Nexus Drug Court, and he now serves as a mentor to individuals who are beginning their path to long-term recovery through the auspices of Judge Ballard's court. So we've collected a few questions from our audience, and in no particular order, gentlemen, get your microphones ready and we'll get straight to the answers. At the conclusion of the documentary, the screen said 13 of the 19 individuals who started in the drug court program completed. What is the rate of the Lawrence County drug court completion?
We have had one individual since the inception of the court, April of 2018, that has been discharged. So we still have all the individuals that have entered the program are still either active participants, less our 4 graduates that were in our inaugural graduating class, and we are slated to have another at least 2, maybe up to 4 for the next graduating class scheduled for April. So we are doing a little better than that average that was on the stat there, but it's one of those things, we're still very early in the process. And that's the success rate. It's really a funny thing because we want to talk statistics and we want to talk numbers, but as you all saw on the documentary and what we see every day in our courts, and I think what Jared can talk about, it's individualized. You know, the stats are good for the people that want to give grant dollars, the people that want to say, hey, look, let's pat ourselves on the back at the state level because we support these things. The individuals in my court and Judge Waldo's court, Judge Capper's court, because we've talked about this before, they're not statistics. And I don't care what those success rates are because the one that was discharged still bothers me that he was discharged. Because we don't tend to think, if you're going to be effective in this, you can't rest on your successes. You've got to focus on the failures and figure out how you don't fail an individual the next time.
Judge Waldo, you're just starting with the drug court.
Well, we've actually been up and running since April 2018. We operated without certification for that period of time, and we are about ready to receive final certification in December. Actually, next Monday, we're on a conference call with the Supreme Court, and at that point in time, we will receive our final certification. But as Judge Ballard said, the individual treatment that we give to the participants in our program is the goal, and we've seen that the trust factor that is established in that video and that we see every week in our drug court is what we're trying to achieve. And so when we look at a statistic like how many people have completed or how many people have graduated the program, the completion and the graduation is more in individual steps that these folks take towards bettering their life. And we've had, I think in the time that we've been up and running in our drug court, we've had probably 5 that we consider graduated in the program, and they've become very successful. What I find it's interesting in the success rate, or the graduation, so to speak, is the successful replacement of their family unit, possibly getting a job. One man on the video stated that he's finally paying bills. Well, our goal is to provide productive members of society again. And just that small step towards putting themselves back on their feet, getting them looking towards a goal or an incentive or some kind of a desire to accomplish something, that's the graduation. And so to give a statistic on how many people have completed our program or failed, that's really a misnomer, and it's difficult to put a number on it. We have done very well with the people that have stuck it out. It's not easy, as the video showed, and the individuals that spoke. It's the most difficult thing they've ever done in their lifetime, and it takes a very serious effort on their part. And I'd say that if we were going to put some numbers to it, we've probably got less than 60% success rate right now on our program. But those 60% that have completed, it's amazing the kind of production that they've had. So that's the best I could say on numbers.
I agree. It's really difficult to get to a number, especially, I think if people realize the level of the epidemic that's in our county. You mentioned in my court in 2018, we estimate I sent 300 people to treatment from the court in Chesapeake. So I think you have to take we have successes and failures, and there's successes inside of failures. And what do I mean by that? I've had several people in my court that were pregnant, and getting them through their pregnancy, and I've got one now. She's due in March. I want to get her, she's in intensive treatment right now and doing well and clean. And getting her through this pregnancy and not having this baby exposed in utero is a huge success. Now, we should also go look at her 4 years from now. What's going to be the success rate then? I can't tell you. I mean, it's a jagged line. It's not you just don't get people in recovery and they automatically are going to stay there forever. I went to a conference in the last year where one of the speakers said, hey, you get someone in recovery for a year, congratulations, they now have a 50-50 chance of long-term recovery. You get them in recovery for 4 years, well, now you're talking. They've got a 90% chance of staying in recovery. And the problem is in the court system's not really designed to follow somebody for 4 years. And that's a long time to track folks. I mean, in my court, that's going to be 1,200 people that we would be following for 4 years if we still have the same rate of of problem and substance use disorder and sending people to treatment. So we have successes, we have failures, and even the failures can be successes in this sense. You're planting seeds, because not everybody comes to recovery immediately, but you plant that seed with them, you get them in treatment, they learn things in treatment. They learn the things, even if they can't execute it, they learn some things, and a lot of times they will be in recovery for a while, then fall out, and then they'll go back, and maybe the second, third time, fourth time, they'll be successful. This is somebody's life we're talking about, and the whole family's life. So you never give up. I don't think you ever give up on recovery. You never give up on getting people into recovery. But it's really hard to predict exactly when that's going to happen, and because they're in and out, it's hard to track, especially with limited resources that we have.
Thank you. Our next question is for Mr. McKnight. It comes from an audience member. Do you think that there is truth in the phrase we heard in the documentary about changing the people, places, and things?
Yes, there's absolutely some truth to that. What I found today is some of the people who I thought were friends then weren't. It turns out I just knew a lot of people. That they weren't around when the times were bad, and they didn't really care about my well-being. So when I see those people today, I immediately begin to speak to them about recovery. You know, would you like to go to a meeting with me? You want to do this and that? And when they're in active addiction, that isn't anything that they're interested in doing, and it doesn't take them long, and they distance themselves from me. You know, that problem takes care of itself. We talk about people, places, and things. The thing about it is, I'm the problem. I can make a geographical change, but I go with it, right? So I have to take care of me. When I start fixing the problem within me, then it begins to work itself out. But you can't continue to go and hang out at the old places that you did. You know, we always have this saying, you know, if you go into a barber shop enough times, you're ultimately going to get a haircut. You know, so if I continue to go around those old people and I go to those old places that I used to hang out with, it's ultimately going to end up bad. And so, yeah, I absolutely believe that there is truth to that.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your role as a participant advocate in the drug court? That's a term that maybe some people haven't heard of. What are some of the responsibilities that you have in that regard?
Well, it's new because I just graduated in October. But what it is, I'm a liaison between some of the participants and the treatment team. I know from experience, it was nice to talk to somebody whom I knew had walked in the same shoes. They had been down this path. So I think it's easy for some of the participants to speak to me about maybe some of the struggles that they're having. You know, is there any advice that I could lend to them? Maybe what did I do in a similar situation? There are quite a few people in the drug court still that I talk to on a regular basis every day, actually. So and I lend that view of, you know, from the addict side, you know, to the treatment team, and you know, and what my thinking may have been in a similar situation.
Thank you. The next question, we'll pose it to anyone who would like to answer. What did they mean in the documentary when they said the program is voluntary for participants and court staff?
That was one of the things when I heard it, I didn't like how it was stated in the video, because they made it sound like that was almost a requirement for our state, which it is not. And we have encountered, my treatment team and I, other drug courts in the state where it is, you can't really call it voluntary. I mean, they're ordered into the program. And that is something from the beginning, at the outset, when we said if we are truly going to be effective in operating this court and make this court an accountability court to where we have those moments of complete surrender, is the new phrase that we use a lot, when you see the light come on. I can't court order that. You've got to come. Now, you may not be ready when you get there, and we understand that. But the process is through screening the individuals, you got to come to us voluntarily. Then we have an application process. We don't find out all the answers. We don't know what your success or your failures are going to be. But there's certain things that we're looking for, and it's different from each person. But sincerity is one of those things. And then the report comes back to me that says, yeah, this person's ready to go in. Doesn't mean they're ready for recovery. Doesn't mean they're ready to graduate. All it means is they're ready to start the journey with us. But then that interview process also gives us the opportunity, because there may be someone ready to go into this program, but we, as a treatment team, identify potential problems in the individual that will hamper the effectiveness of the court and the participants who are already there. You know, you don't want to really bring the wolf into the hen house, so to speak. And we have identified some situations like that, and that causes us to not extend invitations for these individuals to come into the court. We're very selective about who comes in this court, because as you heard the continuing theme throughout that documentary, and already up here it's been mentioned on this stage, it's hard, and it's designed to be hard, because we don't want to make it impossible. We don't want to set individuals up for failure, but we want to give individuals that go through these courts as many opportunities as we can to have the tools at the ready to face the real world problems that they will encounter once they are no longer within the confines and under the direction of the court. And that's where we have had success. And you can see that moment. And, you know, Jared's been with us long enough to have seen it in the participants come through. It's an amazing moment when you can look at an individual and say, he or she's got it. And you can start to let that guard down a little bit, and you just sit there and you keep letting the rope out and letting the rope out and see where they're going to take it. And man, some of them can take you on amazing journeys. Some of them can also turn around and put the rope around the neck and hang themselves, so to speak. But that's part of letting that rope out. But we don't really see that with the individuals that I can tell you that we've identified, and you see it. It's just subtle, and it's a click, and we can all look at each other and say, we don't have to worry as much now about this person. Let's see what they can go do. So that is true, going back to the question, that it is selective for our court truly fits that model. It is voluntarily entered into, but that agreement must be in place by both sides. Just because you want in doesn't mean you get in. Just because I want you in there doesn't mean you're getting in. Because I think I've identified a few people that's come through my court that's like, that person will make a good drug court candidate, and then they get interviewed, and my treatment team come back and say, no, you're wrong, Judge, we're taking that one away from you, and they have valid reasons for it. You know, I'm probably like Kevin in a lot of respect. I'd like to just see everybody in it, bring them all, but we can't have our way all the time, and we lose our effectiveness if we really do that. There's got to be restrictions.
Let's talk for a moment about resources that are available to our courts here in Lawrence County, whether they're certified drug courts or not. How can you make sure that you are referring an individual to an appropriate service? How do you make that determination? And how do you build that network of service providers and entities that can make an impact for someone with substance use disorder?
I'll do my best at answering that. Ironton, ever since I started the drug court back in April of 18, we set out to interview basically about, I think we sent out 14 or 15 letters to entities in our local community and in about a 10-mile radius to come in and have a discussion with the court, myself in particular, about what their goals were and how they handled treatment, what their thoughts were about a drug court. And it gave me an opportunity. I had about 20-some questions to ask each one of these entities and providers. And after spending that amount of time, I spent probably 35 minutes to an hour with each one of these entities. And it gave me an understanding over a period of about 2 days that we did these interviews of what their goals were, what kind of people they were and whether they were interested in helping or interested in padding their numbers and making money. And there was also a major interest of mine as to what kind of treatment goals that they had in the sense of using Suboxone treatment, methadone, those type of issues, Vivitrol, or none of those MATs, medically assisted programs. So with that effort, and then also I made a strong effort to invite those entities to our drug court. And in doing that, there's probably 7 to 10 of them that show up every Tuesday at 1:30 at our drug court. And we develop relationships in the conversations that we have amongst our participants, and you get to know which facility and which entity is truly interested in the recovery of their participants and our participants, and how attentive they are to the issue and the problem. And so that's the way that I've handled it. And I think so far it's been very successful.
That leads into our next question, which is from an audience member. As a pastor of a local church, how can we find the pathway to offer our help? We have facilities, volunteers, time, and heart. We need direction.
I feel like that question was for me because we've got an organization that we just put together called Tri-State Family Connection. And the mission statement is people of good faith coming together to support, mentor, and educate families that are dealing with addiction in our community. And we've got some of our folks here. In fact, I'm going to ask them if they would stand. If people that are involved with Tri-State Family Connection, if you would stand, Lou, you've got to stand first. You're going to be the leader here. Okay. We've got several people here that are involved with this. So if you're involved in the faith community, and thank you can be seated. I just think it's a natural mission of the faith community to get involved in this. As I mentioned before, this is a crisis in our community. If you come to any of our courts and sit and watch, you're going to get educated as to how bad it really is. And we can't solve this. The judicial system, law enforcement can't solve this problem. And it was said in the video, it's going to take our communities getting involved. It takes our citizens getting involved when they figure out what the problem is, and that's part of what our group wants to do, is educate the community as to what's going on, and then give people a vehicle for getting involved with this. And I will just give you one example. There's a young lady who been in my court a lot. She's now in Judge Ballard's court, and I'm not going to mention her name, even though it's public record, and the folks here that are with my group will know who she is. They've followed her down to Judge Ballard's court. The way this works, I'm a misdemeanor court, so if you're not involved in the legal system, maybe you don't understand this, and we had misdemeanor courts in the video, and we had a common police court. So the misdemeanors are the lower level cases. The felonies are the more serious charges where you can go to prison. So this young lady, she's been in and out of my court. She's had an addiction problem for years. Her husband overdosed from an addiction this past summer. Our folks have taken a real interest in her and followed her and prayed with her, talked with her, and approached her. The first time they approached her, she said, I didn't know anybody in the community would even care about what happened to me. I mean, they just came up and said, we're here, and we're from this group, and we want to help you any way we can. We want to pray for you. We want to help your family. That was her first comment. She got very emotional and said, I didn't know anybody in the community cared anything about me. The people that have these problems, that's one of the things they miss. They don't feel like they are connected to the community. A man that's helped me understand this quite a bit, Todd Davies, who teaches addiction to Marshall University medical students. That's one of the things he always says, is the opposite of addiction is connection. Folks they're trying to fill something in their life that they don't have connections. They feel a gap, something missing. And if the community would reach out, and then I don't know who asked the question, but if you're interested in getting involved, we'd love to have you involved. And let me just say this, too. I think this is a good time to bring this up. January the 16th at Tri-State Bible College, we're going to have a program called Bridges Out of Poverty. And this is going to be for the faith community. And my group, Impact Prevention, OU behind the scenes a little bit, has been helping us with this. And this is a key too. Addiction is not always related. Addiction can hit anybody, socioeconomic, wherever you are on the scale, but we know it hits people at the lower level harder. If you don't have hope, if you don't have a job, you don't have a prospect for getting a job, it's a lot tougher. You have a bigger chance of getting involved in it, and it's tougher to get out. So this is coming up. This is going to be an activity we want the churches to get involved in. We're going to have some programs coming up where we're going to be working with families that are involved in addiction, try to get the church involved with them, host a meal, do some mentoring with these families. Because when you get a person that has an addiction, it just doesn't affect that one person. They've got kids, they've got parents, they've got grandparents, and they've all suffered. So I know I don't want to dominate, but that just really hit me, and I wanted to bring that up. So if you're interested, if you ask that question, talk to me or any of the folks that stood up when I mentioned Tri-State Family Connection, and talk to them. Love to have you get involved. What date? January 16th at Tri-State Bible College in South Point at 6 p.m.
And talking about that family connection leads to our next question to anyone on the panel. How do you respond to those who believe the issue with opioids is only a criminal issue and not a public health issue or a human issue?
Repeat that again for me.
How do you respond to people who believe the issue of opioids is only a criminal issue and is not a public issue or a human issue?
A criminal issue? There's an overwhelming number of people who got started on the opioids that were prescribed by a doctor. The only criminal in this situation was the doctor. It wasn't the person receiving them. So if you look at it along those lines, they were the patient. It wasn't their criminal thinking that got them started. And a lot of people got their start that way. And you know, we had just an absolute gross overprescription of opioids. You know, you look in this area. I think about the book Dreamland, about how it all started in South Shore, Kentucky, and you know, down in Scioto County and Portsmouth and everything. You know, and this is the epicenter of the opioid epidemic right here, and that's how it all started. So I guess when I hear the question and I hear we speak of criminals, they think about, I guess, us. But it didn't start with us. It started with doctors. And I'm not trying to label all doctors. What I'm saying is that's how it started. So, and it is a people, deep down, it's a human issue. Sure it is. After I got sober, I started thinking about what was going on with me. Judge Cat brought up, I was trying to fill a God-sized void in me. But what was going on, what was lacking in my life that I felt the need to be in an altered state of consciousness every day? There's something wrong there. There's something missing. When you want to feel that, when you want to get out of yourself every single day, it's much more than just a drug problem or an alcohol problem. And that's what I found out. My problem stemmed way further than that. You took the drugs and alcohol away, and I still had a whole lot of other problems. When I stopped fighting the alcohol and the drugs, and I started really tackling alcoholism and addiction, that's when I really started making some headway in my recovery.
Yeah, I would like to say this, that if this is the way I feel. If you commit a criminal act, even if you're under the influence or because of your addiction, you still have to pay for the criminal act. I've got a gentleman that's over in the jail right now that I've been dealing with for over a year on a third offense OVI. He's a veteran. He's got all the ability in the world. He's been to VA inpatient treatment, did well, come back out, relapsed. And I put him back in jail. He's over in a jail right now. But there's minimum mandatory penalties on a third offense OVI. That's serious business. But you can get up to a year. I sentenced him to a year. I was going to give him the minimum. He's already served more than the minimum now. He would have only had the minimum if he hadn't relapsed. So there's a mix. When I first started, this is my 29th year, and I've been here through the whole thing. When I first started, we didn't have any drugs in the court in Chesapeake, none. Just alcohol, a little bit of marijuana maybe. And when we first started seeing it, and I sent some people to treatment, I was the first judge to do it, and I got criticized. You're just being soft on folks. But we know the evidence shows you send somebody to jail that has an addiction problem, well, guess what? When they come out of jail, they're still going to have the addiction problem, and they probably learned some more criminal activity or criminal behavior while they're in there. So if you want to solve the problem, you got to treat the problem, the addiction. But it's always been the English rule. We're an English common law country, and that means being under the influence does not excuse your criminal behavior. You have to pay for your criminal behavior, but I also believe in getting at the root of the problem.
And it takes on a different approach, I think, what you see in our courts than, I don't know, maybe surrounding county. I don't spend much time in any other counties anymore in the area, but I see a theme that's carrying on. It's how you pay for that crime. At one time, it was incarceration. That was the only way to pay for the crime. Man, I tell you what, you've got a low-level, nonviolent felony possession charge. You do me a lot more service as a member of this community by going out and working a couple hundred hours community service and giving back than you do sitting in the jail in Lawrence County or another county that we transport you to at the cost of the taxpayers. I'd much rather see you running a weed eater at a Little League baseball field or a cemetery or painting the dugouts up in South Point or building the bleachers out at Sims Valley. And it's twofold. We get community work service performed by an individual that owes something back to the community because through the court system we're giving them an opportunity to get help instead of just incarcerating, and a sense of pride and accomplishment that comes on with that. Because when you see an individual who has went out and they've completed this project, like we're talking about, like they helped build the bleachers last year out at the baseball fields at Sims Valley, and the individuals at Sims Valley come up and thank them. That's a sincere thank you. And it's been a long time since some of these individuals have had a stranger thank them for anything. And it's those little tiny building blocks. So I think we're still saying to each individual that comes through the court, you owe the community, and we get to decide what that is. We have a lot of discretion in a lot of cases as to what that is going to be. But I want to see you giving back to the community. And I tell people that a lot of times in the court, you've taken something away, now you've got to give something back. And much rather see it in a form or fashion that's going to benefit others out there. But the biggest thing in all this that we talk about, and we don't spend a lot of time on it because this is a real crisis, real problem affecting real people and families that we see every day. But what's the end game in all this? And it's not conviction rates for prosecutors, arrest rates for police officers, dispositions and clearing cases for courts. It's so much bigger than that, because through each individual that succeeds in recovery, we produce one more individual that can go out and effectively preach to the next generation about abstinence, because that's where we get ahead. We can never lose sight of the human element and the lives that need to be saved. that are struggling with addiction. But we're never going to truly crawl out of the hole that the community is in until the future generations decide not to pick up the substance and go down the road of addiction. And there is no one better to assist in that effort for the youth in our community than the people that are in recovery, because no one has experienced it like they have. I've brought Jared with me before to speak to school groups, because I can sit and talk to children all day about what I see go through my court. We're talking about high school age children. What I see go through my court, the kinds of cases, the who's I see through my court, you know, the daughters, the fathers, the sons, the mothers, all these people and all these stories. And that's fine and well. But how about speaking to an individual that can say, hey, a few years ago, I was sitting out there where you all are. Let me tell you about my story and how it's very, very common and how it started out innocently and what it led to. That's where we're going with all this. That's why we get up every day and we continue to fight with enthusiasm and vigor, not only to save the lives or to assist the people that need help in front of us, but it's to make more soldiers available for the ultimate war, and that is the war of prevention for the next generation.
We've got time for just a couple more questions and some closing thoughts. So how have you seen our community change, say, over the past 3 to 5 years, when our neighboring communities were seeing as many as 24 or more overdoses in a single day? What do you think promoted that turning of change, and what additional change is needed?
I look out here and I see Josh Whaley. Josh has been instrumental with assisting in the overdose situation through the prosecutor's office. Awareness is an enormous ingredient to making sure that people don't overdose. Simply, church groups, the idea that there are people that care. There's a lot more education opportunities out there right now. I think our community is far ahead of many others in the local area in providing all those facets of improvement for people's lives that are facing drug addiction and abuse. More than anything, we've got to get behind all these ingredients, and we've got to encourage the folks that Don has put together at his court. Judge Ballard was the originator of the idea here in Lawrence County at the Common Pleas Court level. Anyone that's involved in treatment and assistance, we need to have foot soldiers, and there's got to be people that give of their time and effort in every way that they can. It encourages me. I see Mr. Cramblett here that has just been elected mayor of the Ironton. Now, for him to even be at this meeting says a lot to me about where he wants this future to go with this issue. And you just can't believe, we've had schools come into our court for the last 2 years, and I see kids when we talk about drugs and we talk about the drug court and things like that, and these are usually 9th, 10th, and 11th, and 12th graders. And a lot of them are disinterested and put their heads down, and they don't seem to be very attentive. And when we have, I bring them in on a Thursday, which is my busiest court day, and then they see actual people up here that are in jail, and they see the issues that are presented by the defendants. And those people that when I was trying to discuss about the drug court and the issues that relate to that, and these guys drop their heads and don't seem very interested, when they see somebody sitting there that is a year or two older than them, or they may have played on the same basketball team with this young man, and they see him having problems with drugs, that's the reason we've got to get behind all these efforts as a community-based idea. And those are the kind of things that stir my emotion and cause me to get up every morning and really approach this like it's a war, and we got to go do battle.
Certainly, we've covered a lot of ground this evening, and there's a lot of passion for solutions on this stage. So can we have a hand for our panelists tonight? And also for our audience here in the Bowman Auditorium, your attendance tonight is testament to your commitment to find a solution for our community. So please, a round of applause for you. Again, we'd like to thank everyone for their attendance tonight at our documentary viewing and for our attendance at the panel discussion. Thank you once again to our electronic media students from Ohio University Southern. And for those of you watching at home, thank you for tuning in to this special broadcast.